So um, a React is a framework. So you have a JavaScript, right? And then React is nothing but a library that is made to be used with JavaScript. So you are actually essentially writing JavaScript, but on something that is already pre-built. Um, React was initially created using, by Facebook. Now they call themselves Meta, and it's one of the most popular framework out there. A lot of big websites or web applications are built using React, including Facebook, Instagram, a lot of different things. Nowadays, it's probably the most famous framework, and it's very easy to learn. Um, and you'll find out that you can do so many things with ease. So this is my objective to teach you this part, right? Because ultimately, you can learn JavaScript, right? Uh, but ultimately, when you go, look for a job, you're gonna be using something like React, because even though like a raw JavaScript is very useful, um, uh, to build a product from it is very difficult. So you need a help of something like React. There are competing product as well, like Angular. I don't know if you have heard about it, or Vue.js and things like that. Um, as I said, if you learn React, which I bet you can learn it, within a couple of weeks and master it maybe in 3 months. You can easily apply for a job and you can get a six-figure salary easily at an entry-level position. Okay, so if you really want to, you know, make that money, I would say, focus on React um, and then apply. A lot of people think that, oh, I don't have a degree, I don't have this, I don't have that. All you need is some experience, because when you go for an interview, they just ask you, can you do this? If you can do this, you can, you know, you can come here and work, right? That's how it works in this tech industry. Um, so yeah, any question on that one? All right. So far we've been using code pen, but we're gonna be using code sandbox. So let's use that. I'm gonna pass the link. You will need to have some sort of account to make sure that you sign up. All right. So let's see. I'm putting the link here in the. All right. So do open it, and you have to probably subscribe to it. So you have to go and register with them. So do that, right? Let me share my screen. Let me know once you have signed up. We can get started, because I want you to code with me here, right? Yeah, you can just use whatever email address that you have. It doesn't matter. The one you use with the code sandbox, code pen should work. Just go and all right. I remember I said, JavaScript is a little hard to learn or master, should I say, right? Because, I can teach you functions and defining variables and all that stuff. But when you put everything together to build something, that's very difficult, right? React makes it much easier, right? Um, so you'll be writing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript all in one single um, place. And that's the beautiful thing here. All right. Let's say everyone signed up.
I am stuck on work. What does it say? Let me go back to it.
Yeah, okay.
Name your workspace.
Name your workspace. Oh,
Yeah,
you already created the account?
yeah, I was creating an account.
Oh, okay. Can you share your screen?
Um, okay. Here we go. Um, share screen.
Yeah.
And here we go.
Okay. All right. Okay, yeah. Yeah, pick that. That's fine. Next.
It won't let me
Oh, can
see.
you maybe change it? I don't know. Can you change the
Yeah,
workspace?
I tried.
Is use your name or something? I don't know. Maybe unique. Add some numbers.
It's not responding.
Hmm.
Let me highlight it, but that's it.
Okay. Can you cancel it out from it? Yeah. Okay. You already signed up. Okay. Good. You already
Okay.
signed up. Okay. You don't need. Okay. If you click on, let's say, sandbox, go on the left, right top, right side, top right. You see the plus sign sandbox? No, no, no. Yeah, right up there. Yeah, up. Yeah, right down. You see the sandbox? Yeah, right. Click on that sandbox.
That
Sandbox. Do you see
and
sandbox?
okay, I need to move Zoom out of the way.
Oh, okay.
Um how? Okay. No, it's moved. Okay, sandbox.
Yeah, yeah. Click on that. Okay. And then you can pick the first one, which is React.
Oh man, I never knew I could do this.
Yeah.
Reset or react?
Yeah, yeah, the first one. Yeah. Okay. And then just click on Create Sandbox. That's it. At the bottom, yellow button.
Well, I could have minimized Zoom all this time and been using this screen instead of having the second screen.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
yeah, you could minimize it. Yeah. All right. So this is how you open it. So I'm gonna okay. You can stop sharing. I think it's creating. So I'll okay, I'm gonna share. So I think you'll automatically stop sharing. Yeah.
I better get this Zoom down. I'm supposed to be training somebody on it.
All right. Do you see my screen now? Uh the code
I
sandbox?
think so.
Okay. So now, yeah, so in here you just always use a sandbox. So I'm just gonna click on it. I'm gonna pick React, which is this first link, right? And then you can name whatever you want. You know, and I think you can put it in root level. Um, and then create sandbox. Okay. All right. All right, so you should see this view, everyone, right? Let me know if you aren't seeing this view.
Oh man, I'm only seeing you. Oh, uh, what?
Yeah, I
What's
can
going
hear you.
on?
I can hear you.
Oh, you can still hear me?
Yeah.
Um, okay. I see something on the screen, but I don't know if, oh, that's me.
Yeah, yeah. You need to stop sharing yourself. I think if you go on the top, there should be a button for stop sharing. Okay, I'm just gonna disable your sharing.
Okay.
Then yeah, okay, now you're not gonna be sharing. Okay. So now you're gonna see my screen only. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so what this is let's say if you create a folder on your computer, right? Uh, this is similar to that. If you there are three boxes, right? The left container, this is where you can see your files, right? The middle container is where you see the code for. So let's say if I select app.js, I can see the code for app.js, right? And then the right container is a preview. Okay. So anytime you want to, let's say refresh it, don't refresh the browser window, refresh this button. You know, if you click here, it refreshes, right? Sometimes if you get stuck and nothing moving, you know, just click on it. It might work out, right? Okay. So that's a little bit about this view. Um, you're going to be playing within this source folder. You see this, there are three files right now. You see this app.js, which is this file, index.js, which is this file, and then styles.css. So this is your CSS. All right. So we're going to be playing here. Don't worry about the other files. So let's understand how it works. So first of all, when you know in HTML, anytime you open a web browser, it always looks for something called index.js, index.html, right? Um, and this index.html has index.js, which is the root JavaScript file, right? So it loads this file. Okay. Don't worry too much about if you don't understand it for now. I'm just gonna speed through it. The objective is to actually get cracking and start building stuff and then try to understand it later on. Okay. So this is the index.html. So in the beginning, your application is completely empty. There's nothing inside. Okay. Um, uh, if you look at the application, uh, it everything gets loaded dynamically, which means app.js is where your application gets loaded, right? So when the application load, first thing it opens an um, empty page. Okay, there's nothing inside because if you look at the index.js, sorry, and there should be an index.html here. You can see there's nothing in the body, right? Your body is completely empty. And when it loads, the first thing it does, it loads this app component. Okay. So your focus should be app.js. Okay. Don't worry too much about it. Let's just focus on app.js. This is what gets loaded, and this is what you see here. All right. So we're just going to play around in app.js for now. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide this container. You can just drag it and hide it. So it's out of the way. Okay. So you can code this. And anytime you want to show it, you can, I think you can just drag it back. Oh, somehow you can drag it back. Or you can, I think, drag it back from here. No. Oh, right here. I think you can. What happened? That's interesting. That's interesting. I think it's gone somehow. Okay, I'm just gonna refresh it. Oh yeah, you can actually go here and then look at it, right? So yeah, I don't know what happened. Somehow it's not, maybe it's a bug in the system where you cannot really, um, but anyway, we're just gonna focus on app.js for now, which is in the source folder. All right. Um, okay. And feel free to ask questions if you are confused, right? Because there's a lot of, so you can see the syntax is pretty simple. You have a function, okay? So what happens is that this is the first thing gets loaded, which is a function, and it returns some HTML. This is not actually an HTML. This is something, this is called, there's a templating language called JSX, okay? That gets loaded, but it looks like HTML, right? So you have a familiarity of, the only difference is, remember in HTML we use class, but here you have to use class name. So that's the main difference, okay? So instead of using class, you gotta call it class name for styling, all right? So now we're just gonna write our HTML here. So if I remove this line, let's do that. You can see that this gets disappeared, right? Now I'm gonna save it first. But you can see it's automatically, and if it doesn't, make sure that you click on here, refresh it, so it gets working, okay? Everyone with me so far? All right. It's always important to understand your environment, right? So that you can play around with it. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna write our first dynamic code. Remember, React lets you build things that are dynamic, okay? Which means you can change things on the fly. It's no longer static HTML file, okay? So we're gonna build something called counter application, which means we're gonna have a button with plus sign, and when you click on it, it would increment a counter, okay? So let's call this a counter application, or not counter, incrementer, okay? Is that a right spelling? I don't know. Okay, save it. We're gonna build this incrementer. So we need two things. We need a number that we can increment, and then we need a button. So when I click on the button, it's gonna increment the value of the number, right? Now that is a dynamic part. So anytime, so just think about this. Anytime that you need something dynamic, you need, that's called state, right? In your application, the things that are changing, it's called state. So you can define your state using something called use state, okay? So here on the top, I'm gonna import use state from React, okay? This is a built-in function, also called hook in React, okay? So this will let us build anything that is dynamic. All right, so let's do that. And then between this curly bracket and a return, we're going to define our state. Okay, so I'm going to define, I'm just going to write define state. Okay, so the way to define state is I'm just going to have a variable called I, which will be a number. and we're going to use that number as a state, right? So the syntax is pretty simple. So we'll just say const I set I. A lot of syntax is going to look like foreign syntax, but it will make sense in a minute. And there's not a lot of syntax, by the way. Okay. So what I've done is I've created my state. In order to create a state, you need two things. You need, imagine if you build a game, you need a character, and then you need a way to move the character, right? So here, think of that as my character, and then this is a way to change it, right? So I is a number, and when I say set I can change its value. So I can set it to 2 or 3 or 5, whatever I want, right? And then, but I need an initial value for this number. So I need to set it initially at 0 or something, right? So like, let's say if you have a character, introduce a character, you need an initial position where it's going to stand, right? In this case, it's a number, you need a initial value, which is a 0, right? Or you can set another value like 2 or 5, whatever. But I've decided to set it as 0. Okay. So pay attention to that. So now that I've defined my state, okay, so you need to do two things. First, you need to import this use state, and then you define your state. And again, you can, if I want, I can say J and set J. It's up to me what I do, right? Uh, but for each state, I need a um, uh, separate value, right? Okay, now how do I use this? So anything that is dynamic is going to be inside a curly bracket. Okay, so I am going to use, let's say, H2 for this. Okay, and then instead of putting like, 1 or 2 here, right? I'm going to put a curly bracket. So anytime you want to use something dynamic, you need to use it between the curly bracket. So I'm going to use I, right? So this means it can change. Okay, this won't change. This will always be the same, right? But anything that between the curly brackets would change. So I've defined my state and I've placed it here, right? So now I can see the value 0. So if I change the, let's say the default value to, let's say, 1,000, I can see that it's I is now 1,000 here, right? So, you can put whichever value. But anyway, initially I put it 0. Okay. Any questions so far? So now we are using JavaScript, but all of these things are already defined for me. So I'm just going to use it rather than build it, right? And that's the beauty of this React thing, right? I don't really have to build any of these functionality. I can just use it like this. Okay. All right. So next thing is we need a button, right? So the button, what we'll do is when I click on it, it will say increment this value by 1. So remember I said set I, which is a function to update it. So I can use this function. So when I click on the button, it's going to call set I, and then set I will change its value. Okay. And I don't have to update the value on the screen. It automatically, your React understands that, oh yeah, there is a value change. So it's going to update automatically. Okay. So I'm going to build a button. Okay. And I'm going to put a plus sign here. That's all it does. So when I click on it, nothing is happening right now. All right. But we need to implement this feature. So when I click on it, it calls this set I and then set any value, right? So think of this application is you have a number and you have a way to manipulate that number, right? Change its value, right? So that's what we're building. Any question? All right. Now, let's understand how the event works. So event is whenever I click on a button, I can call a function, okay? And then in order to figure out how that works, buttons have what is called on-click event, okay? And you can see it has on-click, and then remember, anything that is dynamic, you need to put it in a curly bracket. So I'm gonna put this curly bracket here. I haven't actually defined what is it gonna call, but I'm just gonna leave it open for now. So for that, I'm gonna write another function, and I'm gonna call it click handle, okay? So what this click handle does is it's gonna increment the number. And so I need to link this function to this event. To link it, all I have to do is just pass the value here. I'm just gonna pass the function here, okay? So again, I created a button and I put a click event and I pass this function here. Okay, I haven't defined what is gonna be inside this function, which I'll do in a minute. But when I click on it, the content of this function gets executed, right? Now, all I need to do now is call this function, and I can set any value, right? But what I'll do is I'll set I plus 1, which means whatever the value of I is, add 1 to it, right? That's all I'm saying. So if it's 0, make it 1. If it's 1, make it 2, and so on and so forth, right? So now let's try this. I'm going to refresh it quickly. And if I click on here, you can see it's changing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Let me know if this works for you. I'm going to give you a few minutes to try this out. And also let me know if you have questions, right? Because I would, I would want you to understand this correctly so you can build pretty much anything. As you can see, it's not very complex, you know. Now we are building something concrete, right? We have a button, we have a value, if you click on here, this value need to change. So we created a button, we created on click event, and we'd say, okay, when I click on run this function, which is this function, right? And inside I'm using the set I, which remember I defined the state, and it's updater, right? This is called setter, and this is called getter, right? So this is how it works.
What's on line 1 and 2?
1, 9, and 2, like this, yeah. Let me remove some of these spaces so that, you know, it's easier to see things. All right. Is it working for everyone?
Yeah.
All right. Using this, pretty much you can build any dynamic website, right? Because if you think of the websites, right, we already learned the static stuff. So like HTML, CSS, right? You can use Flex to do pretty much any layout, right? And inside, you can use your React uh, to, you need to identify the states, right? So let's say um, you'll have some sort of state, just like we have here, right? It could be multiple states. And then you need some sort of way to modify it. So you can have a button or input box, you know, or anything else, any other way to, you know, it could be a slider, whatever, right? But ultimately it updates those state. And that's all it boils down to, right? So now the cool thing about this is you can update, you know, the eye, you can use it anywhere, right? And as soon as I click on it, it updates all the eyes. So I don't have to say update eye, it just automatically updates it. And the trigger is this set state. So whenever I call something called, you know, the set eye, it automatically says to the browser, say, hey, you need to change, you need to update this eye, and this eye needs to be changed everywhere I've used. And that's the beauty of this, because I don't need to say where it is and go change everywhere. If you use a raw JavaScript, you have to go and say, hey, update here, and then so and so forth, right? In this case, you don't have to do that. It automatically updates it for you. And that's the beauty of this. Okay. Okay. Now let's do one more thing. Um, let's have also a minus button, right? What it will do, it will decrement it instead of increment it, right? So you can just create a copy of this, and then you can do minus, right? Anyone can tell me, then how do I deal with this? Obviously, I would need another function, right? So instead of click handle, I can call this, you know, um, plus handle. I have to change this to plus handle. And okay. And then I would need another function, and I'm going to call it minus handle. Okay. And then I'm going to use this in the second. And instead of plus, I'm going to use minus here. So now, always do save and then refresh. So if I increment it, it increments it. If I decrement it, decrements it, right? Any questions? It's not working. Make sure you change the function names, right? So plus handle here, minus handle here, right? It's nothing but a function that we learned. And then, oh, okay, okay. All right. Let's do something interesting. What I wanted to do is I wanted to increment it, but then it should not go beyond 10. All right. So when it hits 10, it's a stop. And similarly, when I keep going down, when it hits the minus 10, it's a stop. Anyone know how can I do that? You can speak up. Any ideas? Again, I don't want the value to go beyond 10 and minus 10. There are two ways to deal with this. One is using HTML, right? Or I can say, which is much better, where I can say disable the button once the value of um, 10 hits, right? So uh, if you know the in HTML, button has disable thing, so you can say disabled equal to, okay? When do you disable? So you can say disable if I is uh, greater than or equal to 10. That's it. So if I keep going up, you'll notice once it hits 10, you can see the button gets disabled, right? Um, let's disable the button for minus, so it doesn't go beyond minus 10. Show me how you do this. So I showed you how to do that for a plus button, right? Let's do similar for minus button, but it should disable once it hits minus 10. What should it be? Um, so what you need to do is you need to say disabled equal to I is less than equal to minus 10. And then always put space. So now if I keep going down, 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 after 10, it disables. So I cannot even click. This makes much more sense because it's much cleaner. So I know that I should not go beyond 10, right? Any questions? Another important thing to notice here is that instead of doing this, set I equal to I plus 1, um, what I would do rather is I would write another function here where I would say, remember we learned about the arrow function, where I would say whatever the previous value of I is, and I can call it whatever. I'm just call it, decided to call it previous. Um, so previous value plus one. So don't use I, instead said, because I already know this is setting I, right? Which means it knows what it's setting. So just say whatever the previous value is, return previous value plus one. And this is important because if you have multiple things changing uh, the same value, uh, it will do um, minus one here. It will be much better. So I would always use this instead of simply using, the value itself. Okay. So just remember that. I'm gonna paste the whole thing just in case if you haven't. Um, you can just replace your code with this. All right. Any questions? So this is in a nutshell what React is. Uh, Basically, you have something and then you can update it using either a click or input box or something else, right? Um, okay, so now let's say we are on April 30th, right? So we have few classes left. Let me just check our schedule uh, quickly. And okay, so we have, I think, let me see, 14th. Trying to find out when is the last class. Okay, so last class is, okay, we have two teaching sessions, so 7th and 14th, and then 21st is our final class. So I want you to think about building a simple app, okay, um, for the final project. I'm gonna give you a few options. Um, you can build a rock, paper, scissors. Let me put it down here. Uh, the one is, let's say, rock, paper, scissors. I'm just gonna call it RPS. Uh, guess the number. Guess the number is an interesting game. So you have an input box, and then you'll get, you know, you can guess a number, okay, and then which is already, you put it inside, right? So let's say every time you get a random number, okay, between a certain range, between, let's say, 1 and 100, right? And then a user who's playing this game doesn't know that number, right? So he'll enter the number and then do a guess. If it's wrong, it will say uh, if the number is higher or lower than the guess, right? And then based on that, user gonna guess again. And um, you can build this game many different ways, but one way is, you get user get like 5 chances. Um, And if he doesn't get the number, it would lose the game, right? Um, so this is also a simple game. Um, what else you can build with React? I mean, you can build like a simple calculator. You don't even have to build a game calculator. Okay, build a simple calculator. If anything that comes in your head, let me know. But make sure you build something useful, not just some random thing. Any questions? So you're about 3 weeks to build this using React. Again, another one would be you can build a to-do list. Okay. What else? Yeah, think about something that you want to build, and it doesn't have to be, you know, too complex because we don't have a lot of time. I want you to build something very simple, and then, we'll take it from there. All right. So on the final day, which is um, when is it? 20, the 21st, we'll have um, demo. Okay. If you don't want to do demo, you can just submit your code. Submit your code sandbox link. Okay. But if you want to see other people's demo, you can come to the class. I know not a lot of people come to the class, so it's up to you what you want to do. Yeah. All right. Cool. So that's it. Make sure you understand it. Play around with this example. Let me give you some resources on React. So there is something called Learn. This is the one. So it has, you can read it on your own time, but this got a lot of. So look at this game. There's a game called Tic-Tac-Toe that they have built, right? Using React. So yeah, it's, as you can see, it's not that complex. It's only what, like a few hundred lines of code. Okay. It's using the same thing, state, right? So yeah. Yeah, you can actually, they have a tutorial, so you can actually build this from scratch. Um, you know, as I said, this is a very popular framework, which means if you learn this, um, I guarantee you can get a job, uh, in Silicon Valley. And this is a step-by-step tutorial, which is nice. So, all right. Any last question before we end?
Is there homework for this week?
No homework.
Okay. And when we make the final game, is it like do we have to like make do we play is it like made so you can play against another person or like do you want us to like code a bot for play
No,
against?
it can be like a single player game like this one. So if
Like
you,
yeah, for tic-tac-toe, if I did tic-tac-toe, do I have to like code like a bot like play something random or
you
just
know,
so you can just
so
X will go next?
yeah. So let's say if you build this one, then I X go first, O go next, like that.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah. If
All
you,
right.
yeah, like if you build a rock, paper, scissor, obviously you're playing against the bot, right?
Okay.
And I'll teach you how to do randomization next time, because let's say if you play rock, paper, scissor, um, you are making a choice between three options, right? And then
Yeah.
internally, computer will make do the same thing. But it has to do it randomly, right? Yeah. You can also build a card game if you want, but like you can build a simple card game um, that doesn't involve too much complexity. You can also build, like a matching. What is it called? Uh, Matching card game where all the cards are facing down, right? And then you're picking up. You have to remember, like memory game, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you can build a memory game as well. Um, but no matter what you build, how about this? Think about what you want to build, and then we can discuss what's needed, and then I can teach things accordingly, right?
All right.
Ultimately, everything needs some sort of state, and then you know some sort of event like click or whatnot, right? So yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, so that's it. And reach out to me if you have any questions, right? What I'll do is once you get closer, probably last couple of weeks, uh I can be available if you need an extra time, so I can have one-on-one sessions with you if you need any help uh with your final project. Okay. So I would say pick something by next week and then you have 2 weeks to finish it, which is good enough, right? So, yeah, and reach out to me if you need help. Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah, I think that's it. I'll see you guys next week.
Okay, thank you. Bye.